And we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Marco. I'm one of the code mentors here at the Firehose Project, and I'm running you guys through the info session today, all with nice pink background behind me. So let's jump in. What are we going to cover today? So first thing I want to do is run you guys through the core curriculum, right? I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in the pre-work, what's happening in the full program, what kind of web application we're building, what the group project does, how we customize our curriculum for entrepreneurs and also people who want to land a job as a web developer on a technical team. Then I want to talk a little bit about the support system that we have, what our forum enables us to do, what office hours are what they are and when they're happening, talk about one-on-one mentorship sessions and group project meetings. And then I usually get that question a lot, which is like, what are the real skills that I get out of this? At the very end, what am I able to do? And I want to answer that question as straightforward as I can as well. So let's jump straight in. At the whole time while I'm doing this, if you guys have any questions, right, go to the Google Plus page, use the little chat box, type in your question and let me know. I'm trying my best to answer all of you guys' questions. At the end, I have about 10 minutes time to go over those. I've already received a few questions via email, which is awesome. So I'm gonna go into my email inbox as well and check for questions there. So either email or Google Plus works well. I usually prefer the Google Plus page. Either way works, guys. Okay, let's jump straight in. Core curriculum and pre-work, right? So the first thing, if you haven't done so already, I know a lot of people who are watching right now are already going through our pre-work, our preparation course, which is about 2 weeks, which actually teaches you how to build an HTML and CSS splash page and get it hosted live on the server so you have a URL and have a nice splash page up on the internet. The other thing that you'll learn is how to write really good Ruby code and actually solve some Ruby coding challenges, and actually those coding challenges prepare you to actually not be screened out before the technical interview process if you want to land a job afterwards. And for the entrepreneurs, it's just good having those fundamental skills of how to write good code before we accelerate you in the core program. So if you want to join the pre-work, if you're not on it already, definitely go to the theFirehoseProject.com, look at the top nav, find a bootcamp pre-work, apply for it, take a few minutes to make the application good, really look through every single one of that, and then we can get you started and have you going on the pre-work. Now, once you go through the pre-work and we actually accept you in the core program, here's what's happening. The first thing we're gonna do is obviously install your web development environment. We have a custom guide that is a lot automated and helps you install everything really fast on your machine. Works for Windows, Mac as well. I usually get that question, so don't worry about that. You don't need to buy a new computer or anything. We took a lot of care and effort into that installation guide. The next thing we're doing is we want you to build a web application and launch it live on the web, put it on your own server within the first 10 hours. And that actually gives you this 360-degree view of all the moving pieces of a web application, right? You're using your Ruby language skills, you're using the Rails framework, you're using the Postgres database, you're using Git for version control, GitHub to back up your code, and you're using Heroku as a server, right? You're also using HTML and CSS. What we're building is pretty simple. We're storing a quote, a simple sentence in a database, pulling it out, and randomly displaying random quotes on a screen. We pack it all in a mobile-first design so it looks good, right? So the goal is always when you're at a party, you're pulling out your phone out of your pocket and you're like, hey, this is what I did last weekend. Your friend's reaction should always be, oh, wow, you did that? That's awesome. So that's always what we're shooting for, right? It needs to look good on tablet, desktop, and mobile as well. So that's the first application, about 10 hours. Then we keep the learning curve steep and get you on to the next one. Next, we're building a Yelp clone. And I think the most interesting feature of the Yelp application is the integration with the Google Map API. So that means if I'm Marco, have a pizza place, and I put it on the Yelp clone, we call it the Nomster. If I put it on my Nomster app, and I type in my address, we need to write the Ruby code to grab that address, save it in the database, translate that address into latitude and longitude coordinates, pass those coordinates back to the Google Map API, so we get the pin on the map. That's one of the features, but it wouldn't be a fully functional web application or a really good web application if that would be all that it could do. Next thing we need is user comments and star ratings, right? If somebody comes to my place and eats an awesome slice of pizza, they can give me a 5-star rating and they can leave a comment there. So we need to build that. And the other thing is automated email notifications. So for example, if you guys leave a comment or rating on my pizza place, it'd be cool if I actually get that automated email saying like, hey, somebody just left a rating on your pizza place. You may want to check that out, and you see a link to it, and you can interact with your users. So get that engagement up. So that's what we're building as well. And then we're also building a dashboard where I, as a pizza owner or every store owner, can actually go and see some standard analytical metrics on what's happening. Number of ratings, number of reviews, number of comments, those kind of things. Obviously, we also need to integrate with a user authentication system so people can register, log in, log out, sign up, those kind of things. So that usually takes our students about, I'd say, 3 to 4 weeks, right? So now we're about a month in the program. What's up next? Next, we're building an online learning platform, something similar to Udemy or Skillshare, right? And when I say platform, what you guys should think about immediately is like, oh wow, there's actually 2 different user roles now, right? There's instructors on one side and users on the other side. So that means we need to track on a database level who is who, right? So if we have instructors who are building courses, building content, and students who are purchasing this content, and I'll talk about what happens with actually transferring money over our learning platform in a moment, but if we have that, then we need to really track like which student bought which course from which instructor, and how does the money flow over the platform. And if you think about it, that is exactly what powers most of the web application that we use today, these database relationships, right? If you think about Facebook, somebody puts a picture up, somebody likes it, somebody comments it. Who gets the notification, and what kind of notifications are they getting? And that's exactly what we mean when we say he's tracking all these interactions on an application, on a database level. And that's exactly what we're learning while we're building our online learning platform. So the next thing that I said is we obviously can accept payments on our platform too. So we integrate with another API, the Stripe API. So we're able to accept credit card payments right on our platform and make sure we actually get paid for the quality content that we're putting out. The other thing that we do during our online learning platform is we introduce JavaScript. And we introduce JavaScript at the moment when you need it. So for example, our instructors, they have their lesson blocks. And what's really annoying is if you want to reorganize content on a page and you have to like put in numbers and to reorganize and save, that's not good, not a good user interface. What's a lot better is if we have a drag and drop interface. And that's exactly what we're teaching you how to build. So our instructors on our online learning platform can drag and drop and reorganize the individual lesson blocks right on the page without triggering a page reload. And so we need to use JavaScript and jQuery and some AJAX requests to actually make that happen. So we teach you what you need, when you need it, to improve the user interface so we have an improved user experience for our instructors on our platform. Obviously, we need to also have user login, logout authentication as well. Next, what we do is we really want you to learn test-driven development, right? So we have a full application that we want you to build writing software tests first, right? So zooming out a little bit, what does test-driven development mean? Test-driven development is basically we need to write software tests to automatically test if all the features of our web applications are still working, right? We don't want to ship a new change live and then click around on everything, make sure there's no broken links, no broken pages. So software tests automatically test that for us. Test-driven development is we writing the software tests first before we build the feature. It takes a while to wrap your mind around this, but as a practice in the industry, it's the absolute standard. You cannot do without test-driven development in today's technical world out there. So it's something that's absolutely crucial, especially if you want a job. And for the entrepreneurs, I highly suggest you adopt that mindset as well. So what's happening next, right? So we're in about week 8. So we have about 4 weeks left. What we do then is we split up the curriculum. So there's entrepreneurs, people who want to build and launch their own web application idea on one side. And then there's career seekers, people who want to switch careers, they want to start working on a technical team, be a web developer, right? Let's talk about the people who want to switch their career first. What are we going to do with you guys? So that group, we're going to put on a group project. Why is that? Because the best software in the real world is built by amazing teams, right? So you need to know how to work together as a team to build and launch software products. There's just no way around. No one codes by themselves. It's always a team. So that means we need to know how to use GitHub for version control and code collaboration. We know how to do code critique, how to give feedback, how to refactor code, how to look at code, and how to work together as a team. The next thing we're going to do is we're not building a simple web application. We're actually building something really challenging together as a team. And what we're building is a chess game. Now, people usually tell me, oh, come on, Marco, a chess game. That's not that exciting. But it is exciting to advanced senior web developers and technical hiring managers, because a chess game is a lot more complicated to build than, for example, a Yelp clone, an online learning platform, or a Facebook. Those are simple applications compared to chess games. Think about how many figures there are on a chessboard, and how we need to track on a database level the move of every single figure, validate that they're correct, and keeping track of which piece got kicked out by which piece. And then also like things like checkmate, right? These are complicated logical things that we need to build in code to make sure our chess game is working. And usually what is happening, our graduates take that code, what's called a pull request, a bunch of code with their tests in it, and show that off during a technical interview process. And that usually gives them the edge. Rather than being on a whiteboard, not a pink one, but a white one over there, they actually run through their own code what they built. And technical hiring managers think that's really impressive, because it is. And one of our students in LA just a while ago was asked in a technical interview process, like, so one of the questions that we always ask is, how do you build a chess game? And he was like, well, funny you should ask. I just built one. And he opened his laptop and started showing his code that he built together as a team, right? And having that backing you up in a technical interview is absolutely crucial, not only getting that, but also getting the job. And we see that time and time again. That's why the group project is so important. You can't be a high impact employee on day one if you don't know how to work together as a team. That's why we're spending 4 weeks building an advanced web application as a team. Now the other group, right? What if you're an entrepreneur? What we do is, after the first 8 weeks, when you have a solid understanding of how to use Ruby and the Rails framework, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna split you take your idea and wireframe it all out. We build out every single screen, we pencil and paper it out, use wireframing techniques to draw out every single screen of your application. Then we break it down into individual coding steps and coding blocks and start shipping one feature after another live until we have the full application live and launched after the 4 weeks. And it's up on the internet, and you can get that user feedback, and you know your coding base, so you can consistently improve upon it, and you're not dependent on somebody else. That's what we do in the last 4 weeks with the entrepreneur. We call this the capstone project. So you're launching your own web application live on the internet. Now, the other thing that we're doing throughout that entire process, we teach all of our students how to write algorithms and solve complicated coding challenges in Ruby code. For the career seekers, that is really important, because lots of our coding challenges and the algorithmic challenges that we have are actually real coding challenges that are used at PayPal today, eBay, Yahoo, at Techstars companies, right? People are using them. Our code mentors that mentor you, they use that live when they interview people for jobs. So doing that is really like the key to becoming, like getting that edge in the job hunt, and knowing how to write really good Ruby skills. Plus, it will help you building the chess game at the end a lot more when you know how to write good algorithms. It's just something that you need to know as a web developer. And for the entrepreneurs, it's really important too, because you can build so much more powerful web applications if you actually can implement algorithms into your application. So you can go way beyond doing like a simple form where a user enters something and it shows up someplace else on a page. Those are easy things for web developers. What's hard is integrating with another API, passing data around, analyzing data in your application, validating different data pieces. That's really hard. Now, that is pretty much the full 12 weeks, the pre-work as well. Now let's step back and talk a little bit about the support system, right? So we have 3 different tiers. We have the question and answer forum, we have the weekly office hours, and we have the mentorship sessions. I usually start talking about the Q&A forum, and people go like, come on, Marco, it's just a forum. I have an error message, I paste it in there. And that's right, it's only a forum, but it is what that forum enables you to do. So basically, what you can do is, if you have an error message, right, you're coding Thursday night and you get stuck, you take a screenshot of your error message, you paste it in the forum, within an hour or 2 you get help, and we help you be unstuck so you can continue learning and you stop spinning your wheels. What that enables you to do is, when you have your mentor sessions, your one-on-one sessions, you can arrive at them error-free, right? We don't have to spend our hour to be like, okay, you're missing a comma over here, you're missing a semicolon, or just check your code pieces and say thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. You already know that your stuff is working. What we can do is we can write more tests for your web application. We can go deeper into algorithms. We can really push you onto the next level and take that hour to pair program and do just what we would do in the real world, is build an additional feature onto your existing application, help you understand that algorithm, refactor your code. That's what we want to do in a mentorship session, not do troubleshooting and telling you where the typos are. We have the forum for that. So the way the two work together is really important, so you get that high impact mentorship session every single week. Now, the other thing that I love is our office hours, right? They're every Wednesday. All of our students come together in a video conference. We can all see each other, and then anything goes, right? We oftentimes explain how the different pieces of the web application fit together. We do live error shooting. If a student shares their code, we show here's how a professional would troubleshoot the code, and students can learn from each other too, right? Oftentimes what happens is you're in week 2 or 3 in the program, and you see some code that somebody has from week 10. You're like, whoa, this is really advanced and complicated, but you know, this is the path. This is where I'm going to. On the other flip side, right, you have a student who maybe just started week 2 and has a question, and you're in week 8 and you're like, oh man, I had that exact same question, and you can just give an answer and help that student out, right? Not only does that make you feel good, but it's that teach back moment where you actually solidify your learning in a different way. These are office hours, I love them, and they're always a lot of fun, and all our students come to them. Okay guys, now I said there's one more question that I answer, which is, what are the skills I actually have, right, when I come out of this? Besides knowing Ruby, Rails, JavaScript, jQuery, your databases, right, GitHub, Heroku, and writing algorithms, right, and launching stuff live on the internet. What you can really do is, if you have an idea, you can sit down for a weekend, for a week, build your application, ship it live on the internet, create something, get user feedback, and improve upon it, right? You become a creator and you can build. And that's the most powerful thing that I think we can give you. Besides landing a job and changing your life or launching your own web application, that continuous, I can always build my next idea out. I think that's really powerful. Now guys, I have about another 10 minutes of time. We can obviously go over. If you guys have more questions, let me check if I got any questions. I already had a few in my inbox, so let me see what I have. If you have any question, guys, feel free to shoot them over. So I'm checking here right now. Oh, so here's the first one. What's the application process? Great question, right? I mentioned that before. Application process goes, we want you to apply to our pre-work. So go to theFirehoseProject.com, top nav, you find the bootcamp pre-work, click on that, fill out the application, and then go through the coding challenges, right? You learn a lot, HTML, CSS, right? How to write good Ruby code. If you're already advanced, we have people in our program who have 10, 14 years of web development experience, or they actually lead developer teams in different programming languages, but they come to us to get the cutting edge skills. This might be easy for you, but please go through anyways. If you're starting out and you only have like several months of coding experience, this is really awesome to get the fundamentals down so we can accelerate you. And then once you solve all the coding challenges, we accept you in the program and we start new students every Monday. And you get started right away and we match you with a mentor. Cool, great question. Let's see what else we got. How are the materials are presented? That's a great question. Okay, so materials are presented, multiple ones, right? We have written instructions, we have videos, we have live instruction. Let's talk about the written guides, right? So we have detailed written guides that give you step-by-step instructions on how to build the web applications. Now, why did we go with written guides? Written guides make so much sense because that's how things work in the real world. If you go in after our program is over and you want to integrate with an API, you want to use open source code, there's always written coding documentation on how to do things, how to pull open source code into your project, how to integrate with an API. Our written documentation, by using that, you get used to using, reading and implementing code. So it prepares you for the real world. Plus, the other thing is it's a really rich resource for you to come back to. We have a lot of our students who are like graduated and they code on technical teams, they work on startups or big companies, and we see them regularly logging in their account again and quickly looking something up. Oh, how do I send automated email notifications again? How do I integrate with the Stripe API? Because I know I've done it there, and I know I need that one line of code. Got it, paste it over there, they're good to go, they sign out again, right? That quick reference, that's really key. And you can do that with written guides. If you had videos, you'd be like jumping back and forth a lot to find that one moment where we show you that code. So written guides, then we have the video instructions. Video instructions we usually use for big concepts, right? So how do all the pieces of a web application fit together? Model view, controller architecture, routes, object-oriented programming, test-driven development, inheritance. These are concepts that you guys need to know. We have videos, lessons that we give to you at the moment when they make sense, when we know from experience and looking at our data. Right now, if we give you those videos, it will click for you and you're like, oh, now that makes sense. That's when we usually give you those videos and enable them for you on your in your account. The next thing we have is the live instructions, obviously, right? The office hours, you have the weekly one-on-one mentorship sessions. If you're on a group project, you also have the weekly check-in with your group where your 4 group team members come together and you have a dedicated mentor for that group meeting as well. So there's always live instruction going on as well. So these are the 3 ways how the materials are presented. Great question. Okay, let's see what else we have. Oh, okay. Ford just asked me a good question. What is the average time commitment per week? And are there parts of the curriculum that are not flexible with regards to time? Great question, Ford. Okay, average commitment per time per week is say about 20 hours per week. We want you to dedicate at a minimum to it. You could do 15, but on the safe side, do 20 hours per week dedicated to the curriculum, right? Includes mentorship session, everything, your time, coding and working through coding challenges, building web applications. Everything is flexible except the weekly office hours. They're on Wednesday nights. If you can't make the Wednesday night office hours, we always record them. You can submit questions beforehand and we answer them. You can see a video the next day where we answer your question as well. So sometimes you can't make it, then you can watch the recording. But other than that, everything's flexible. Our mentors are all over the place. So some mentors have their mentorship sessions on the weekend because that works better for their students. They have them in the evening, they have them in the morning, whatever goes there. So everything is flexible and totally self-paced, but about that 20 hours commitment per week. Now, we have students who go full-time through our program, right? That totally works too. You want to do full-time? No problem. It's not like we're slowing you down. It's like, oh, you completed too much this week. Sorry, you got to wait 3 weeks. If you go through and you accelerate, we're all for it, and we give you the thumbs up. We want to keep you go more and more and more, right? So we can give you additional coding challenges, put you in a second group project if you want to build another additional web application. So that definitely works. But the minimum for it is 20 hours. So I hope that answered your question. But that's a good one. All right, let's see what else we got. Why is a group project so important? Oh yeah, that's a good one. Group project, I said before, right? The best software in the world is built by amazing teams. Like, cannot launch anything out there in the real world just by yourself. You can, but if you work on a team, that's usually how things work in any startup tech companies. There's always a dev team of 3, 4, 10, 200, right? So you need to know how to integrate yourself into that team and use the tools that they're using. And the standard thing is usually GitHub. So you need to know how to do that code review, how to look at other people's code, how to actually write your test coverage so it's perfect, so other people can give you the thumbs up of your code and merge your code in. You need to know how to do pull requests, right? These are all these things that you need to know. And you also need to know how to get yourself out of trouble if you mess up. And that's usually a question at the technical interview, which is like, so what challenges have you overcome? And that's such an easy question to answer if you've been on a group project, because things are bound to explode. And sometimes group members mess up and you guys got to come together and fix it. That's just like in the real world, right? This is all decks on hand meetings where it's like, oh my God, our code isn't working. We got to fix it all together. And talking about these challenges is exactly what happens every single week in the real world. So having gone through that shows any hiring team that that person actually has experience that's really valuable. And we don't, like, if any emergency comes up, they know how to help themselves. And that's crucial to being a high impact employee. And that's why the group project is so important, and demonstrating those skills by actually showing code that you work together with another team on it and pointing to it, to that code, to that conversation that happens on the code reviews. that's crucial to landing a job as a web developer. All right, what else do we got? Chris just asked me a question. Let me check this. How are modern businesses using Rails to innovate their product, and why has so much fuss been made about JS frameworks lately? Well, I can fill a whole other info session about that. So why do you use Rails to innovate on their product? Okay, so this is hard to answer because I don't quite know what you want, which way you want to go, but I can give it my best shot, Chris. So first thing is, there's a Ruby programming language, there's the Rails web development framework that enables us to build web applications and release new features extremely fast. So using that framework makes it faster because we can lean on the framework to build features like, for example, we don't need to write 20 lines of code to save an email address in the database, make sure it's secure. The framework takes care of that for us. That's one reason why businesses use that to innovate on their product, is because they can build features faster and release them faster. And the quicker you can release, the quicker you can push new features out, the sooner you get feedback and you know, does it work or not. The business who gets 5 times the user feedback to another business usually wins because they can iterate. And that's why startups usually win that race, because they can move so much faster and get 5, 10x the user feedback before a big company makes their first tiny change, right? That's oftentimes because they're in a more modern stack where they can push code and new features out faster. Now, why has there been so much fuss about JavaScript frameworks? Of course, everyone talks about AngularJS. It actually starts getting a bad rep for a lot of JavaScript devs because there's not too much convention going on right now. And it is like, you know, a lot of opinion going left and right, how to do it the right way, and you can do it anyway. Oftentimes, you need to know JavaScript pretty well before you integrate with some of those Ember.js, AngularJS, before you do anything with it, right? Using Node.js wouldn't make a lot of sense because it does exactly the same as Rails does. So learning 2 frameworks at the same time doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, what matters is that you, if you're looking for a job, can solve complicated coding challenges with code. Doesn't matter which code you're using. Oftentimes, we have people interviewing for Python jobs, and they don't even, it doesn't even matter they learn Ruby, because if you can solve coding challenges with whatever code, they know that you can think the way they need you to think to tackle complicated challenges. So the other thing is like about the JavaScript frameworks, you know, it's like learn JavaScript first, get that foundation. It's pretty much like some big people come to me, oh, I really want to learn Angular. And I was like, what do you want to do? And they basically tell me, I want to cross the street. And I'm like, well, how about I teach you how to press the button on the traffic light and walk across the street? But you're asking me if I can teach you how to build a rocket ship to launch over to the other side. It's kind of overkill a lot of times. And they're made for specific problems that very few applications actually need. So there's a lot of fuss and hype and left and right. So it's a long topic, but I hope I could touch a little bit on what you wanted, Chris. I think you had a second question as well. Also, will the skills in this program give us enough confidence to tackle future APIs not covered in the course? Yeah, I mean, the Google Map API is pretty substantial. The SendGrid API to send emails, the Stripe API. And then during the group project, we oftentimes integrate with a JavaScript API called Firebase. That's basically, so if you're thinking about GChat on Gmail, or like when I type a message, the other person sees that I type currently, and there's like, oh, Marco's typing right now. So that 2 screens see immediately what's happening, or in Google Docs, we integrate with Firebase. That's a JavaScript API as well. So you're definitely going to get enough exposures to APIs. And since you're always reading documentation, you should be pretty confident to integrate with other APIs in the future. So Chris, great questions. I hope I answered them correctly. Let's see what else we have. All right, here's some more. Okay, Rob, I live in Virginia. I noticed that I rarely see any job ads for Ruby on Rails specifically. I'd like to stay employed in my area. Should that be a concern for me, being that it's such a large focus of this program? Rob, not necessarily. A lot of okay, there's several different ways of how you can find a job, right? So first thing I would do is look up a Ruby and a Rails community. Go to meetup.com in your area and try to meet those people in person. See how many there are. Talk to them. That's how you usually find out for a lot of jobs, right? Sending your resume for these job applications that you find on Indeed.com, which is a meta search engine, oftentimes is like you just one in a deck of many. Talking to people is the way to go. If you think about it, would you just blindly apply for a job and not knowing who your team is and then get to the interview and then get a job offer and accept it and then sit there and say, oh, this is my boss, thanks, and my team. Actually, I don't like them. Would it make more sense to first meet those people informally, realize, hey, I really like them, and then see if you can get a job? That's what happens at meetups. So go there, talk to them, and find those communities and connect with your developer community. You can do that tonight, you can do that tomorrow, whenever the next meetup is. You don't have to necessarily know how to code already. You can connect with them and make those relationships. Would that be a concern? Not necessarily, because I said that before. It doesn't matter which programming language you use, as long as you can solve like coding challenges in an algorithmic way, then that's what people are looking for, right? Teaching you your second coding language, that's the easy part. Having you know one really well, your first one, that's the hard part. So there's a lot of people who switch coding languages all the time. And picking up the next one, that's just syntax changes. But the thought process that goes into, that's the hard part. Great question. Let's see what else we have. Wow, you guys asking me a lot of questions. I love it. All right, Eric, I can't make it to this event. Great. All of you guys get a recording. Let's see. I think that was all, right? Let's see if I have anything on the. Yeah, no, I think that's it, guys. We're about done. In case you have any other questions, right? Email them to me. Happy to answer them. Also, as I said, start with our pre-work, right? Learn how to write your first Ruby scripts, learn how to launch a simple HTML and CSS splash page, and get accepted into the core program, and then we can accelerate you. This was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming, and guys, thumbs up, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the pre-work.